Okay, so just firstly I'm just going to give a quick run through of what we've got coming up today, and then just a quick introduction to the Comet section. I know there may be some non-members in the audience. Just to explain what the Comet section does and basically why we're here. So this morning we've got 4 talks. We've got Jonathan talking about periodic comets, Peter Carson talking about imaging comets from... Sorry?
Drop the lights.
Oh yeah, drop the lights.
I was going to do that.
Okay. Peter Carson talking about imaging comets from mountain tops in Southend. And Dennis talking about comet magnitudes, which is a fairly wide-ranging subject. Then we've got an hour for lunch from 12:15 to 1:15. Lunch is not provided. There are plenty of places out in Northampton to eat and drink, but do make sure you're back by 1:15, because we then have a talk which I haven't seen yet and which Janice won't actually show me ahead of the talk, called Politics and Dirty Snowballs. I can't imagine what that could be about, but we will find out. And as part of that talk, just to make sure that you pay attention, there's going to be a quiz. There'll be a quiz at the end. We'll hand out some sheets of paper that you can fill in. There'll be a quiz at the end with questions that apparently can only be answered if you listen attentively to the talk. And the prize, which we'll be awarding at tea break, is a couple of tickets to the New Scientist Live event in... when is it, Janice?
28th of September to the 1st of October in the Excel Centre in London.
So there you go. So that's an incentive to be back from lunch and be completely alert during the first talk.
Yeah, £25 each.
They're worth £25 each, apparently. Woo. Okay. Right. After that, Richard talking about monitoring comet outbursts, and then we've got a couple of talks on PROAM. So Tony Angel's going to be telling us about some of his experiences working on PROAM. And then we've got Padma Yamandra Fisher is going to be joining us by Skype, in theory. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning for her over in California. And she's going to be talking about professional amateur comet astronomy and basically cooperation between pros and AMs, which is a really important thing these days. Then after all of that, we've got the tea break and the prizes, and then the main part of the show, Alan's going to be talking about near-sun comets, which should be very interesting, I hope. Well, I'm sure it will be. I did ask him. Unfortunately, there won't be any pictures of Russian cows falling off the back of lorries. So the last talk I saw by Alan was about the Chelyabinsk event, and had some really nice bits of Russian dashcam footage in it, which was very entertaining. Then we got 4 short talks to finish off the day, and the plan is that we close around 5:45 and probably be out of here about 6 o'clock or so. So that's the schedule, that's the plan, and hopefully we'll keep to that. So just a quick introduction to the BAA for those of you who are non-members. The BAA has been around since 1890. The core of the BAA is its observing sections, and there are a large number of different observing sections, each with a director who is supposed to be an expert in the particular field. So I happen to hold the Comet Section directorship, so I guess that's why you're here. You're interested in comets. Basically, we're happy. We accept observations from everybody, whether they're members or not, and we try and make all our material available generally to everybody, because, in my view, the whole point of what we do is really cooperation amongst different groups, and so we're not just narrowly focused on the BAA. But I think there are definitely benefits in belonging to the BAA, in particular that you're actually supporting the work that we do. So you're supporting what we do to encourage amateur astronomers to actually observe things, but also to observe them in a methodical way so that they can report their observations and we can use them for science. So there's a whole spectrum of people who belong to the BAA, right from people who are interested in astronomy and don't observe, right through to some very, very dedicated observers, and hopefully we cater for all of them. Oh yes, could you make sure you've got your mobile phones turned off? Just... and don't ring mine because mine isn't at the moment. So this is the BAA website you can go to. If you're not a member, I strongly encourage that you actually join. And there's two ways of doing that. One, you can actually join online, but Tony at the back and the guys have actually got some paperwork there, and I think he'll take your money off you on the day, so you could become a member today. So how many non-members are there actually here? Do anyone want to put their hands up? Not that many, only 3, but there's a potential audience. Tony.
Can I just say, if you sign up today, you get 18 months membership for the price of 12. So that's excellent.
Yeah, really good value. So yes, as I say, I'd really encourage you to join the BAA. I think the BAA is a really important organisation in terms of organising amateur observing in the UK and around the world as well. The Comet Section has its own website, and yes, I know this picture is dreadful. I need to find one that doesn't have me in disguise. But there are lots of things that you can get from the Comet Section website. We have pages which contain what's called our image archive. So for many years now, we've been collecting comet images and archiving them on the web. Dennis Brzezinski does this work, and in fact recently he's just sent me the 500th batch of images to put into our archive. If you are sending us images, there are some particular conventions that we'd like you to adopt before you send them, and that relates mainly to the way that you generate the file name. So the file name format is a very specific format which allows our archive to automatically determine which comet it is, who the observer is, and what the observation date and time is. If you do submit images, we would really appreciate if you can use that format, because otherwise it involves Dennis in a lot of work in renaming files. He's very good at it, and there's not much else to do in the north of Scotland in the winter. But it must be a fairly mind-numbing thing to have to do.
Have the images in any format than not have them at all. So
yeah.
If you do, good. If you don't, still send them.
Yeah, that's right. So that's the point. You know, we'd still like to receive the images, but before you send them, just have a think about Dennis sitting up there in Scotland renaming these files.
Things like that. There's 456 images of Schwarzman and Bachmann 29p. And you know, there's a lot of images in that archive, and when you get to really bright comets, there might be 1,000 images, and these images may run from discovery to where they've disappeared. So a good record.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's one of the most comprehensive archives of comet images that there is on the web. So if you're looking for particular images of a comet, whether it be a historical comet or a current one, have a look there. One of the things I would really like to do, and hopefully we can do over the next few years, is to actually go through the Comet Section archives, where we've got quite a few photographs, you know, hard copy photographs of historical comets, get those scanned and get them put up there in that archive as well. We do have some going back quite a way, don't we, Dennis? We've got some from Reggie Waterfield in there, and even earlier observers, I think. Anyway, so that's our Comet archive. You can get to that from the BAA Comet Section page. We also have a mailing list, so if you don't already get enough emails from mailing lists and things, you can subscribe to another one if you're not subscribed to this. There's not a huge amount of traffic on it, but it does often contain stuff which comes out before it comes out in other places. So this is open to members and non-members. Just go to the Comet Section page. There's a link through to this email list, and you can just sign up. And you'll get our email list as well. Jonathan maintains still the observations and analysis page for the section. This is probably one of the pages I refer to on the web more than almost any other, mainly for the things like this, the current comet magnitudes and observable regions, which is an extremely useful resource. So if you're looking to see what comets are visible, what's up and coming, and what's happening to them, this is very useful, and also the information about the latest discoveries. So again, a really useful resource. Jonathan's managing this page, linked again from the Comet Section website.
Just about managing it.
Yeah, well, you have too many other interests. So, but in amongst all those interests, I think still an extremely useful web page, and in fact one of the few that has this kind of information on it. One other thing that we've recently released is a new version of the Comet Section Observing Guide. So you may know, Jonathan, this is the paper copy of the previous Observing Guide. We've recently brought the Observing Guide up to date. I don't know what the date of this one is. Is it 2011 or something? Or was it before even that? Maybe even older than that. So the latest version of the Comet Section Observing Guide contains quite a few updates related to CCD imaging and some of the more recent methods of observing comets. Again, this is a PDF now, and it's available for you to download from the Comet Section website. It's the intention is to try and keep it updated fairly regularly now, and if you do download it and there's anything in particular that you think is missing or incorrect or whatever, just let us know and we'll put it on the list of things for the next update. But I think it's a fairly worthwhile document. It contains a lot of information from various people on the Comet Section Committee about what comets are and how to observe them. So just a quick summary then of some recent comets and some recent activity in the section. We've been quite lucky actually since the beginning of the year to have some quite interesting comets. They've not been spectacularly bright, but there have been some interesting comets, and in fact on one night, this is taken from the BAA's Winchester meeting in Sparsholt College in Hampshire. In one night I managed to get all four of these objects, and we received a lot of images of all of these comets from many people. So 41P, Totelgear-Cabinet-Chrysac, was a very big gassy comet that came quite close to the Earth. It was a really good example of a comet which was difficult to estimate the magnitude because it was so diffuse. Then we've had Comet 2015 V2, which is still around. It's been around for a long time. It's a comet that came to perihelion outside the Earth's orbit. It's been very well placed in our skies for months. It's had a nice dust tail, quite a gassy coma, and from really dark skies, an ion tail as well. We had an amateur discovery from our good friend Terry Lovejoy down in Australia, and Terry is renowned for discovering really spectacular objects. 2017 E4 wasn't really spectacular, but it actually turned out to be a lot brighter than people expected. It was so bright, in fact, John Toon discovered it independently from the UK whilst observing a variable star, so that shows that actually that variable star observing can be useful. And we've also had a comet that has best been seen from southern latitudes, 2015 ER61. Pan-STARRS was a fairly faint comet that had a nice outburst. So we've had a good selection of comets, but most of these are gone now, but we've received lots of images from them. One other thing in the section, we've been doing a lot of work on trying to standardize comet magnitude measurements. And I've been developing a technique which I think is a fairly general technique. We now have a Windows version of this software, actually written by Peter Carson's son Alex, so he helped me translate this to Windows. And we're looking for volunteers to try this out. We've got currently 4 or 5 observers who are using it. And we're comparing the magnitudes that we get to some of the visual magnitudes on COBS. There are still some differences, but there is also a lot of similarity as well. So I think this is kind of almost ready to go live, but at the moment we're still looking for volunteers. So if anyone is interested in using this, getting a copy of this software and having a go with it, can you please just talk to me over lunchtime, or talk to Roger Dimmock as well, or Dennis, or Peter. They've been using the software reasonably effectively. So that's comet magnitudes. We can't, of course, not mention this object. I mean, we all observe comets, so we know what they look like from the Earth from a long way away. But the results back from Rosetta, I just think, have been absolutely astounding. The mission's over now, but it's been a mission which I think probably in the list of ESA missions has been really probably the most amazing scientific mission that ESA have ever done. And we know so much about this particular comet now. I'll pass this around. This is a 3D printed model of the rubber duck, the nucleus of 67P. I guess the big question now is how how we can translate what we know about 67P to other comets, and how much is generic to comets and how much is specific to this particular one. But I was at ESA recently, and ESA have got a much bigger model of 67P, and this is me standing by it. And they've even got the little Philae lander there sitting on the surface. You can just about see, not quite to scale. But from Rosetta we got pictures like this, and I just find it amazing as a comet observer that we actually now have got pictures of a comet nucleus at this kind of level of resolution. Just an extraordinary thing to imagine that this is a picture of the nucleus of a comet. So we're incredibly lucky, I think, to be alive now at the time when these missions are happening. Okay, just finally then, there are still some comets, there still is a comet worth looking at. Johnson 2015 V2. It's heading off south now, it's going through Virgo. We won't be seeing it for much longer, but it's been a very nice comet. This is a Damien Peach image of it, showing the coma, the dust tail, and the ion tail out here. And we have one other comet which has been the subject of a lot of ill-informed discussion on the web. This is C2017 K2, which is another Pan-STARRS comet. It was discovered about 16 AU out, so a long way out. It's currently about 19th magnitude, and many people have been making all kinds of speculations about what it might look like when it comes to perihelion sometime early in 2023. As Patrick Moore used to be fond of saying, we just don't know. We have no idea how bright this is going to be. We have no idea really at the moment whether this is a dynamically new object or an old object, and that will make a huge difference to its behaviour. This is a picture from Southend, from Peter. So a comet around 19th magnitude, taken from an urban area. And Peter's going to be talking this morning about observing comets from urban areas, and I think this just really emphasises that wherever you are, you know, however much light pollution you've got and whatever the problems you may have, you can still, with modern technology, get to an amazing level of amazing magnitude and do some amazing science. So anyway, that's the introduction. I'll get out of the way